Hello and welcome to another episode of Hashtag Leadership What's on Your Mind, a series to inspire you on your leadership journey by telling stories and meeting people who are in business and driving themselves and their businesses forward. So today we are speaking to Kath Jones. Hi Kath, how are you doing?
Hi, hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So I know Kath very well, and she's been with me for 3 months on the leadership course. I knew her before then. And one of the things that sticks out is we did do a session, and Kath was on a beach in Tenerife. I was in my office in the UK here. And Kath's quite close to me. She's over in Liverpool, but it still makes me laugh that I'm able to do that and the scalability of what we do now in this modern world. So Kath, we've got 20 minutes, so I'm going to start the watch. And just, Kath, introduce yourself and tell us who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are now.
Okay. My name's Kath Jones. I have got two companies. One is called Think Wine Group, and that is a reduced calorie, reduced sugar, vegan and organic Prosecco and sparkling rosé. So we have two wines currently. It's also zero carb and zero fat for anyone who's on the keto diet. It's good for them. So that's one of my businesses, and the other one is called We Are Social Nation. Don't know if you can see that.
Like it.
We Are Social Nation, and that is an influencer marketing agency. So we manage people with large followings on social media, mainly Instagram, but other platforms also, and TikTok is very much on the up right now, as I'm sure everyone knows. So yeah, we're moving quite quickly into TikTok. So yeah, those are the two businesses that I run. How I got to this, I've always been in sales. So for me, every job was very sales dominant, and I moved into influencer marketing just as a salesperson. Ended up moving my way up the ranks within a company, and then I ended up branching off and setting up my own influencer marketing agency. From there, we were always working with brands that were making a lot of money off the back of influencer marketing, and I decided that I wanted to find a way to get a piece of the pie. Like, clearly the return on investment from influencer marketing is mega, and I wanted to be able to do that with my own brands, which made me begin to think about what brand I would launch. And then kind of just over years and a lot of gaining weight, I came up with the idea of a reduced calorie and reduced sugar Prosecco. Also, vegan was very much a thing at the time. So I thought if we could make it vegan, organic, reduced calories, it could really win. And also, I know that's perfect for influencer marketing because it's a young female demographic. So that's how I got the idea for Think, and then we ended up launching Think mainly by using influencer marketing.
Yeah, fab. And you've mentioned about the vegan thing, and I think it's a real credit to you to be able to see that market, because you talk about that quite a lot, about that you saw the opportunity. But yeah, I know that it took you a couple of years, didn't it, to get that up and running. So yeah, even like 6 months ago, 12 months ago, we think of it as being like a new thing that's come out, but you were 2 years before that as well.
Yeah,
so
I think
your vision.
Yeah, I think it was because I'm working with young girls who are obsessed with their appearance, obsessed with how they look, obsessed. But I'm not saying that vegans are like that, but it's a very healthy way to live. So a lot of the girls were looking for these healthy ways to live because they just wanted to look their best. They weren't necessarily bothered about like the saving of animals or the planet or anything like that. They were just thinking, that's a very healthy way to live. I'm going to look good if I live that way. And so the people around me that I was working with, these influencers, young, fit girls, were all going vegan. So I kind of spotted it through that, because I was like, oh, okay, what's this? Veganism. I'll never do it personally, but okay, good, all credit to you. And that's how I spotted it, I think, because I could see that these girls were doing it, and these girls were the people who were influencing the rest of the UK. So surely soon enough, the rest of the UK were also going to see it as really good.
Yeah, awesome. So that is like a whistle-stop tour of how you've got to where you are. Can we just revert back a little bit and reflect on some of the things that you have picked up and have added to your leadership journey. Before we met, look back at some of the things that have affected how you've become a leader and how you lead people.
Yeah. It's been a mixture of many things. Like I worked for nearly a year and a half in the USA. So I picked up tons of skills there. And I watched them very carefully as to how they lead, how they manage, how they really brought me out my shell. I was only 19 when I was there, and it was only my first proper job other than, little bar jobs and stuff like that. So they really helped bring me out my shell, and I learned a lot from them in terms of confidence, in terms of communication, how they do things. So that was kind of the first step. And then I went to work in China after that, spent a year and a half in China as well. And I was watching them and how they did things. And I've picked up like little tips from almost everywhere I've been. So definitely from America, then from China. Then I've been back in the UK working for an American company, and I was picking up tips from them. And to be honest, I picked up a lot of what not to do, which isn't great, but I certainly picked up a lot of how not to be. And then when I went to work for a celebrity agency, there was good and bad in the leadership there, but there was a lot of good because I'd worked in corporations. So I'd worked in these huge businesses where you're just a tiny little number. And yeah, it's great that you're the top seller or whatever, but do they really care? Like, it doesn't matter. They don't care. While as this business I've moved into, there was only a handful of staff. So every little thing I did was noticed and, was picked up on. And you could see the difference from working in a corporation to working in a small, like, local business that we could then grow. So I learned a load about leadership there because there was so much good in how I was led. There was also some bad, but there was a lot of good. So I learned a lot there. So, but I'd say it probably wasn't, I've always known what kind of leader I wanted to be, the type of person. I can't always get it right, but I do try. And then obviously when I worked with you, it kind of highlighted the areas in which I was really strong already, and then the areas that definitely needed work. So we were able to then work on that. So I'd say I had quite a strong basis, but then coming to work with you, it just pulled out and just helped with the flaws that are obviously there.
Yeah. So that what you talk then says a lot about and again, in your business, in your leadership, that self-awareness is there for you, isn't it? You're very self-aware of what you're doing. So actually, one of the things that I really speak to people, and it's getting even more and more now, that people don't realize that they have a leadership role or they don't see themselves as leaders.
Yeah.
Is there a point in your journey that you kind of sat back and went, I'm actually in a position where I'm leading people now? Does that stick out to you? Can you think back to when that happened?
Yeah, well, I used to work for a company called Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And it was like, I was working for them, and it was really, really hard work. It was long hour days, like 14 hours. I learned so much from them. And at first, like when I went, I was like, it was like a graduate scheme, so I joined kind of bottom level, and I was top seller like pretty much instantly for the region. And because of that, obviously people start to notice you. So I climbed the ranks quite quickly, because from like being a graduate, you then move to being an assistant manager. And there's kind of a bit in between that where you're like training to be an assistant manager. And I think that's the bit where I was like, oh, I've gone from just being the top seller to teaching people how to sell and telling people what to do. It's a completely different job, because one is a sales role where you don't need to be organized or anything as long as you're a great seller. You just run around making sales, being good, doing what you're told, and that's fine. And then the next one is organizing people. So running a team, telling them what to do, helping them to sell. Completely different job role, but it was almost in the transition period where I was like, wow, I'm not just a salesperson anymore. I'm leading a team. how has this happened? Because
that's really interesting that you mentioned that, because just to go back on when I sat down after 12 months of leaving, there was two things I saw in the corporate world. One, you'll know these. So one is everybody's busy being busy, and there's no direction and focus. But the other one is exactly what you've just said then. There's a lot of people getting promoted because they're really good at their job.
Yeah.
They're not having the skills and the tools to lead people, because you're right, it's completely different.
Yeah, it is.
So what were the challenges in that transition?
Everything, because there's no one teaching you how to be a leader. It's just, you're just pushed into the role. It's just, you're good at your job, so go ahead and show other people how to be good at theirs. But sometimes other people don't have that natural ability, so it's hard. And especially if you're not like a born leader, which I don't believe myself to be a born leader. I believe I'm a born salesperson. I don't believe I'm a born leader. So for me to like go being shoved into leading a team without any assistance, it was very, very difficult, because I didn't know how to handle people's different personalities, or I wanted to keep everyone happy. And it was a very difficult transition, to be honest. And I'll be honest, I didn't stay much longer after that. And that, to be honest, it was other reasons, but I'm sure there's been other people who've struggled when they've been forced into that transition without any assistance or guidance in how to be a leader, because that is essentially, your job goes from salesperson to leader.
Yeah, and like you said, there's a job retention issue there with some businesses that are you giving your employees the tools to make that step, because it is completely different, as people listening will know. So moving forward now, so tell us a little bit about the here and now. What does your leadership look like? How are you developing? What are some of the benefits you've had in investing in your personal development?
Yeah. So I've got 4 staff at the minute, and they all, well, 3 of them do pretty much the same role, and another one does something completely different. I think, obviously, with the help from you, I've been able to learn about how to handle certain situations that I probably wouldn't have known how to handle previously. But I think I've been very lucky up to now, to be honest, because they're all so good at the job that my leadership is very much a gentle handhold. And it's obviously, I want to lead by example, so I always make sure that I'm the best that I can be, so that they can hopefully be that way. And I believe that I've got like great morals and things like that, which I try and instill in them as well. But other than that, there's no, I don't micromanage them. There's no pushy leadership. It's very much a gentle hold of their hand. And that's my kind of leadership technique up to now. Now, as we grow, I've said this to you before, like, I worry, because I've got those 4 personalities that I know very well. I know what makes them all tick. I know what they're good at, where they're slightly weaker. I know how I can make them feel good. So with those 4, it's good. It's quite easy for me because I know them. Whereas as we add more and more people to the team, which we are doing, we're actually expanding, we're getting 1 other member of staff. It worries me because I won't know them in and out. I won't know what makes them tick. I don't know if they need a gentle handhold or whether they're going to need a firmer grip. So I guess it's, for me, I'm still in the learning stage. I'm a new leader, really. I am going to just keep learning every day.
Yeah, I me knowing you as well, I know that is, I know you say that's worrying you, but I know that's going to excite you and challenge you as well.
Oh, of course. I mean, I'm not losing any sleep on it.
But I know we've spoken as well about, and it's one of my big passions about business owners knowing themselves, having that self-awareness, driving their leadership forward, because what you've explained there is that you will attract the right people. Yeah. Because you're setting that role modeling, and you're the people who you currently have in your business, who are all fantastic. Yeah. They will set the precedent for you as well. Yeah. And you're setting those foundations. There's been big studies about, if you get it right when there's single figures, you'll be okay when you expand into double figures.
Yeah.
Which I know is your vision for the future.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about some of the things that, obviously there's people listening who are business owners, or they're really interested in leadership development. What would you give as advice that has helped you, or you would tell other people about starting their leadership journey?
I think, if you've got the money to invest, then you should do. If you've got money to invest in yourself and go on some kind of course to just help you along the way, then I would always do that. Like, I believe in the more I can kind of learn from someone who specializes in a subject, the better. But for me, the biggest thing that is the most important of all is just communication. If you can communicate well with your staff, then I think that's half the battle, because it's very much a case of they want to be kept in the loop. They want to know everything that's going on, that's happening. They want to feel like they're involved. They want to feel like they're important. That's what everyone wants. They want to feel like they're needed, they're important, there's like, you feel like they're actually a part of the team. So I just think that one of the best things that I do is communicate everything with them, and I tell them what's going on, and I tell them when something great happened, or when something not so great happened. I just communicate everything. And also, if you don't want to leave a little problem by not communicating because you're worried about communicating it. Like, I know a few people, this is me talking from experience, I know a few people who are quite anxious about pulling people on stuff. Whereas luckily for me, I'm not bothered. Like, I'll just pull you. I won't care. But there is people out there who would be worried about that. And I think that if you can nip it in the bud while it's a small issue, why would you just let that grow and grow and grow until it's a big issue? If you can just nip it there and then by communicating, then do it. Don't be afraid or anxious to, at the end of the day, like, they are still your staff. So they do need to almost know their place to some extent. So if something bad has happened, you do need to be able to say, listen, like, I know this has happened. Please, like, explain it. Let's go through it and talk to them about it before it becomes a big issue where you're livid and you're like, and your head falls off. So I just think every little thing, just address it, and hopefully that will change. I think just communication is the most important.
Yeah, you're right. It builds consistency, doesn't it? You just made me laugh because I dealt with somebody last week, and we spoke at the end of the week and we reflected, and it was almost like there was a 10% issue each day that they hadn't addressed. But guess what? On a Friday, you've now got 50% of an issue, and that's how we sort of basically put it together. And there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, that's what happens in my weeks. There's things. Yeah. So, a couple of questions to finish off with. I'm going to go back to what I said. One of my observations was that there's people busy being busy. Mm-hmm. So what does busy being busy look like in your life, and how do you make sure that you don't get to that situation of weeks just like getting away with you? And this is like your self-leadership now. Yeah.
I don't know. I actually don't know. It's a whole different situation because we're in the midst of COVID. So everything that I had planned out for like my leadership future, that was whiteboard sessions and morning meetings and all that, it's down the pan because I physically can't do it, because the way that our company works is we obviously send the wine out. However, before we had a warehouse that was sending out the wine, which meant, we were all about the emails, the customer service, communicating with each other. It was all about that. But now there's no warehouse. Everything has to be packed ourselves. So my whole day is spent packing boxes, hundreds and hundreds of wine bottles. So there's no time for me to say, oh, let's have that 2-hour meeting I wanted, that whiteboard meeting. Unless I literally eat into people's weekends or evenings. All of my plans for organization and communication and everything that I had planned it's kind of gone the other way. So for me,
I remember when we started working together, we had that exciting time of you moving offices, didn't
exactly,
we? And
yeah.
everybody was home working like they are now.
Like they are now. So everyone, they're back to all where they were,
Yeah.
which is such a shame because we finally got our office ready. We were all so happy to be in the office together, and we started off really well. You know, there was whiteboard meetings, there was discussions, we didn't have to worry about packing boxes or customer service emails. Someone else was taking care of that. Now it's all on us. Plus, we're all just trying to make enough money so that I don't have to furlough anyone. I don't want to furlough. I don't want to get rid of anyone. So right now, everyone's just head is down, making sure that we've got enough to make sure everyone can get paid every month. And luckily for us, we're okay on that front.
Yeah.
But there's so much more like this. We've got so many improvements when we're back in the office that I need to get stuck into all the plan that me and you made that was halfway happening.
Yeah.
Is now not happening, if I'm being completely honest.
But I think that fits into a category, and we're just finishing off now, but that fits into a category of I spoke to some of my social media content last week about it's all well and good we talk about this proactivity, about be proactive, but at some points in your leadership, you have to be reactive and deal with the current situation.
Yeah, well,
and sometimes we talk about reactive leadership in a negative case because you're reacting and you're putting fires out left, right, and centre. But no, sometimes in this situation, we have to just put the plans down and go, right, what do we need to react right now? And I think you're doing a sterling job, and your team.
Thank you.
And it's credit to you and the team for where you are as a business. So,
I agree.
Kath, that's 20 minutes. Can you believe it?
God, that flew by.
I know, yeah. So, Kath, thank you so much for your time today. Hope everybody enjoyed that. Make sure you subscribe and you comment and you give us a review on your podcast provider, or if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. All our episodes are recorded, and obviously you can listen to them on your podcast as well. So, Kath, thank you very much again.
You're very welcome.
I will put all your details in the comments, and check Kath out. Check that Think Wine out. And we'll see you all next week, guys. See you soon. Bye.